The atmosphere, the people here around are so passionate, so it's incredible.
I get goosebumps every time I see this.
The Nürburgring is really a very special place, and it's a very difficult place.
It's very, very good to have all these fans back here in the home of motorsport.
I love this atmosphere. It's the calm before the storm.
Alright, so welcome to round number 5 of the Nürburgring eSports Championship. We're back from our summer break. Summer break was very long.
Okay, now apologies me here, we had some problems with the bindings, those are now fixed, so that's why you saw a little bit of a loop. We are now set up properly and we should be good to go here, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to be quite the stream here, not gonna lie, it's gonna be a lot of fun here and I can't wait to see how this one pans out. Now, for the people that don't know me, my name is Rick and I am from the Netherlands. I will be streaming the rest of the season here on the Nürburgring eSports channel for you guys to follow along with. And it is going to be incredibly fun. I can't wait for this one here. And before we get into it, I think it is time that we have a look at what is being prepared for us here today. We're starting this off here with a nice little feed here on the race calendar. We've had 3 rounds so far. We had Daytona being our first round, followed up by a night race in Qatar, and then we went to the iconic Circuit de la Sarre, aka Le Mans, for our 3rd round. This is going to be round number 4 here. We are at Fuji Speedway in Japan today. Once again, rocking the Hypercars and GT3 class in a 60-minute multi-class race. Afterwards, we'll have a race at Interlagos in late September, followed along by Spa-Francorchamps, Circuit of the Americas, and we're finishing it off on the Nürburgring Grand Prix. Now, obviously, we also have some events running over on the Nürburgring Nordschleife, but more will follow along. And obviously, we are also driving here for some pretty cool some pretty cool prizes here. And we have a driving academy experience on the line, as well as a Touristenfahrten, so a Nürburgring Tourist Drive voucher of €200 and some merchandise, as well as a prize for the lounge winner, a AYCD pass. So quite a few things up for grabs. Now let me quickly take you through whatever these standings are like, because this is currently what it stands like on the GT3 side of things. Rufio is currently leading the championship after 3 rounds, and he seems to be really on it. At least previous round he was. He's currently P2 in the championship, but he did win the last race. Baumert currently in the lead from Germany. He is looking to represent his lads over in the Nürburgring Lounge, as we obviously have multiple locations to go off here. And Rufio in P2, then it is Schnutgen in P3 in his Porsche, followed by Lorente, Dewald, Cheville, Emmon, Convertini, Boltzhauser, and Steffes. Now, when it comes to the hypercar of things, we have currently in the lead Maximilian Rurik here, over from the Nürburgring location as well. They seem to have the fastest drivers, as also the 2nd and 3rd driver from that class are in there. So we have Bauer and Lutherbach currently P2 and P3. We have P4 is for Fabian Klein, currently standing on just nicely here. So quite a few nice things up for grabs here. Overall, you can see that things are definitely changing up from time to time. And, well, it is going to be an incredible fun one here. Fuji Speedway, located in Japan, once a year visited by the World Endurance Championship. And that's also what we're going to be doing here today. Now, as always, we have all these drivers visiting multiple locations. So all these drivers are playing from our Nürburgring eSports centers around the Nürburgring, around Koblenz and Cologne in Germany, or around Zurich, for example, or Luzern or Lugano over for the Swiss side of things. And we have some new locations coming up, so not all of them are being populated as of now. For example, we have the Roche location being a little bit less big, as well as the Cologne one. But anyways, it seems that we are gonna be good to go here. So let's hop right into the game, shall we? Let's see what these drivers are currently up to. Indeed, we are here now with the race ready to go. And this is where things are gonna be getting a little bit more intense here, as we have a 30-minute qualifying session coming up here. Majority of the drivers right now over on their outlap, obviously looking to find some space to get the right results in. Now, the qualifying format is pretty straightforward here. We have a 30-minute session, of which the first 20 minutes will have hypercars in them, and the last 20 minutes will have the GT3s in it. So that is quite interesting, because it means that the hypercars only have 10 minutes to get clean laps in before we see GT3 traffic coming around them. They'll then be able to do their warm-up laps, but in their safe laps, while the hypercars come in, they'll have 10 more minutes to qualify and go for some really fast lap without having to deal with the faster traffic around. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays along here at Fuji Speedway. Now, one interesting note about this track is that it actually features a very, very long straight all the way over from the Panasonic corner turn 16, that is, all the way over to the turn 1 section, making this quite a fast circuit with quite some challenging corners in it, especially towards the later sector. Now, we're obviously using the WEC layout, as you guys might expect here. Currently riding aboard with Leonard von Canals. Most of these drivers are trying to set in their qualifying laps now. We're seeing the first times being posted. Max Verstappen has a little bit of a lockup into turn 1, but he did just set the time to beat over in his session. Already, he's gonna feel that fire under his feet as multiple drivers are putting in the lap times that they're looking to settle for. Max Verstappen immediately being put down to P3, for example, with Kilian Lutterbach taking that lead over right now. We're seeing all these drivers doing really, really well in the beginning. Just to set in their first laps, you can see that once they're there, there's 17 drivers total when it comes to scoring points right now. There's obviously a little bit less on the grid. We are going to see them post these rapid lap times in rather easily. Once those laps, are just coming in there, we'll see more warm tires. We'll see everyone's kind of found their spot. Everyone's kind of found their rhythm here. And we'll see where that brings up here. We also have some chatters along in the chat. I am reading along. Might not always be able to respond, but regardless, I'm glad you guys are here. It's really cool to be sitting here as we have a little bit of a spin by championship favorite Fabian Klein, or at least one of the favorites here. Currently doing really, really well in the championship, but has a little bit of a moment here, and he's going to be quite dissatisfied with that one here. That was his chance, obviously, to perform well. And as Fabian Klein is now looking to recover here, see what comes in. Now, the point system is as follows here. It is pretty simple. It's 25 points for the winner in the class. And that drips down to a 1 point to P15 overall. So it's 25, 20, 17, 14, 12, 10, and then it just goes down to 1 per position behind. Fabian Klein currently going fastest overall. He has put in a 127.138 here. And that is quite a quick time already here. To put that into perspective, for example, obviously last time around, it was the 6 hours of Fuji here in 2024 in September. New event 2025 coming in rather quickly here. And you'll see that during qualifying, the fastest time was actually a 129.090 during qualifying, a 128.901 during Hyperpole. So actually, we are quicker right now than we would be on the real-life version of the track here. And obviously, conditions were not that great last race around. It's now a little bit better, so we'll also see these drivers being pushed to the limit a little bit more here. Maximilian Rurik is taking second place for now. 2 drivers leading the championship. Only 10 points currently between them. They're fighting to see who can put this car on pole the fastest here. As time obviously will keep ticking away here. Basically every driver out there on track. Couple exceptions here. For example, Victor Mestras into the pit right now. We'll see Fabian Klein navigate the circuit rather well. He's currently looking to shave off about half a second of his time if he manages to keep this up here. Pushing his BMW around to see if he could maybe shave off a couple more seconds. He actually was a little bit slower through the last couple corners, but he gets a decent exit, and now it is a matter of getting out there. I think he's done really well on that lap. He should be able to improve a little bit there. By the looks of it, he's able to shave off a little bit more time. That will put him towards the high 26s here. The first 26s has a little bit of a lockup towards turn 1, however. So that's a little bit unfortunate here. Obviously not going to be good for the tires, but generally speaking, should be pretty satisfied with the result here. Andre Hennes out there on track again. Also driving from the Nürburgring location. That's also what the 3 letter codes are referencing to, but he has a little bit of a lockup here, and that's going to cost him valuable time. means he won't be able to improve this lap. That means that he'll stay into P4 right now, and that lockup is just going to cost him so much time. Yeah, he's going to be finishing way below his usually mark, and that actually would mean that, for example, some more drivers could be challenging for that. For example, Michael Bauer currently in P6, but he's bound to come in pretty soon to finish up his lap, and he is actually currently doing well on the Delta. He should be able to shave off just a little bit of time, and indeed he does go ahead now, putting his Cadillac on P4. That will put him into the top spot when it comes to the Cadillacs out there. There's 2 on the grid. Michael Volos in P10 right now. We'll stay aboard with Andre Hennes for a while. He's currently doing decently well, currently basically on par with his record lap time. Gonna have to shave up a little bit more time. Had to live through there to make the corner. Keep in mind that all of these drivers are not sitting in their comfortable spot at home, though. They are in fact finding themselves in the Nürburgring lounges, which also means that setup might not be 100% what they're used to, though I am pretty sure that most of these drivers are regulars anyways. Some exception, of course, but it's mainly going to be the top 5 to watch here, I think, right now. As we'll see, Andre Hammes trying to see if he could potentially improve here. He's looking to come around. He's actually currently a little bit ahead of what he usually does, and he might just be able to shave off half a second if he keeps that up. Rather clean in the later sector of things. But these upper corners, with some of them being quite blind, it's actually quite difficult to navigate. And you cut straight across, and then it's just a matter of nailing your upshifts, and he's doing exactly that right now. Actually, as he's gonna cross the line, he might be able to push himself ahead here. Is it gonna be a lap improvement? I don't think so, or at least it is gonna be an improvement, but it's actually not gonna be good enough to take back that position from Michael Bauer. Currently the only one challenging from a different esports center is a driver in the Koblenz area, and that's gonna be Kilian Lutterbach, finding himself in P4 in the championship. And looks like he's following along just nicely here in P3. It's going to be very good for him. Obviously, during these events, we also have live timings ahead of us. So that means that we're going to have all these drivers ready to go. And make sure they drive cleanly whenever they have the opportunity to. Because every single contact or every single incident is being looked at by our live stewarding team. Just like it would be IRL. So that's quite fun to watch along with. Alexander Haug currently fighting himself over in P7 in his Toyota, currently on his outlap though, so he's got a long way to go here. It's the first 10 minutes half past now. Also means it's not going to be long until we get the GT3s out there on track. And in that case, it's actually going to be quite difficult for all the other hypercar drivers to keep improving, because they'll be dealing with traffic that they'll have to lap. And I think I just saw the first driver out there already making his way through. I wasn't sure if it actually was a GT3, but judging by information on the left, we'll see that all the GT3s are now getting out there. They'll be putting in their lap times, not really comparable to the hypercars, of course. They're going to be significantly slower, which comes to the advantage of a much more stable car. And now you could just see that they're actually going to get into the way of the hypercars a little bit here, and it's going to be really difficult to get along with. We actually had John Luigi in the background. Tatali has had a little bit of a crash, and we also saw Andre Hennes make contact with Aiden Cheyenne Salim. So yeah, we are seeing some drivers here getting involved early, and Alexander Haug has a big lockup. He's going to go really wide. That means lap over on that side is not going to be able to improve. Fabian Klein currently fastest overall, the only driver to be able to get into the 126s here. As Timothy Sparison's looking to get out there. Currently finding himself in one of our newest arenas in Switzerland. Sparison looking to do well. A lot of incidents happening around on track in the background. In the meanwhile, we've seen Luca Becking make contact, for example, with Roberto Lorente, that is. So it's getting chaotic out there with both classes out there at the same time. Obviously, that's also how they do it in the World Endurance Championship here. So in that sense, we're following the playbook But it's going to be difficult to improve, and that is good news for Fabian Klein, currently on provisional pole in his class and also overall, of course. Some drivers now going back into the pits, contemplating whether it's still worth it to get out there. That GT3 traffic just being so much of a hassle to get around. As Tim Risparisen here is still looking decently close to his previous lap times, makes his way around the BMW nicely. The awareness is definitely there though, so that should help a little bit here. But as always, there is no guarantees when it comes to that. So we'll see how these drivers do here. And this is Dorian Malbasic. Currently looking to do a couple lap times of his own. Then he's currently P13, and he's got to be careful, of course, with all those lap cars coming in. He's trying to beat Fernandinho Dapice, who's currently finding himself just milliseconds ahead. It's not going to be an easy task, though. For all those lap cars around now. Just need to see if you can find a little bit of clean road to be on, but it feels like no matter where you look, we've got GT3s coming around. There's a lot more GT3s around than there are hypercars in this competition. This is Thibaut Raffieux making his way out there, currently the fastest driver in his class with a 1:39.948, so it's 10 seconds slower per lap, which doesn't seem that significant, but it's quite a short track, so these drivers will be up into traffic a couple times around. Especially if you consider that this race is 60 minutes. Now, the weather's looking very nice today, way better than it was at Le Mans. Currently set to a 26-degree air temperature, a little bit on the hotter side perhaps, so should be fine as long as you don't overheat your tires. And at 29 degrees track temperature here with some broken clouds, but quite windy out there, 15 to 40 meters per second. Not to mention that actually we also have some broken clouds out there, so the vision should be all right. Not perfect, but it should do the trick. Jeremy Baumert going really, really wide on that. Currently looking to see what he can do then. So currently this Jeremy Baumert leading the championship there. Thibaut Raffieux is finding himself in P2. And there's a little bit of a spin for Norbert Dewald, and it's actually going to be taking down the Ferrari with him. Oh no, that is not good news. That is definitely not good news, and they're both going to be going back to the pits. It's Daniel Gattani that got hurt in that incident. That is not pretty by any means here. Raffieux still going at it though. Currently has the fastest time to be the 1:49.513. Improvements could most definitely be possible here. But so far I think it's doing the trick. Plenty of drivers going wider also. As now we see some more improved times coming out there in the GT3 class here. Roberto Lauren now being the one to beat. A little bit of a slip and slide here for Jan Snutgen, and his teammate's actually going to join a little bit along him. He's actually going to make his way back onto the track. He's not going to be able to, and I think he just hit the barriers a little bit. It's going to come to a stop surely. And this man, currently the fastest one out there, should be a familiar livery for all of you. It's Roberto Laurent making his way out there. Now, let's see what else there could be. Now, these drivers are from the Rocca eSports bar in Switzerland. So, all of these drivers are with some familiar names. Some of them will be sitting next to each other, but some of them will also be away online in that sense. So, it's a bit of a combination here. And keep in mind that these hypercars, they're still out there on track. Now, they're soon to leave. They have 2 more minutes, and then they're allowed to finish the lap afterwards. And even though there's only a few ones more out there, for example, Kilian Lutterbach, he still wants to see if he could improve on this. It's not going to be a shattering record, at least. And GT3s now are going to be glad that soon the hypercars will be gone. The buck's going to come to a stop. I don't know if that was intentional or not. I think he just overshot the corner a little bit, and indeed he does want to continue. This lap obviously immediately ruined afterwards for him. Fabian Klein, currently still the provisional pole sitter here. Essentially, all the hypercars are into the pit with the exception of Alexander Haug right now and Kilian Lutterbach. Still hoping for a miracle out there, as the time is officially over now for the hypercars. Soon be headed out, and then there's going to be a GT3 only party with currently Roberto Lauren leading the way for 138.402. Being the fastest driver around. And now this is Aiden Shah. Jan Salim currently finding himself in P29. Iconic Falcon livery, of course. Recent winner of the Nürburgring Langstrecken Series. Race number 6. Which I actually had the pleasure of going around there. He's currently finding himself in P29 still. He set a reference lapper and is currently actually pushing along with Jeremy Baumer trying to come around here. Keep in mind that he's one of the fastest drivers that we have in the GT3 split, so it's always going to be a little bit of a challenge here to try and beat him. And maybe it does allow for some towing opportunities coming around on the straights, but by the looks of it, everyone's already long gone. Roberto's definitely too far gone. He's flashing his lights. Once you get involved, hypercar quali is now officially over. So we are a couple minutes behind on timer. Should be around 2 minutes. Not a big deal, of course. Jeremy Baumer just making sure no one gets in the way for him. Wants to beat Roberto Rohr, and it's going to go really, really wide on that first corner, though. Now, it's not the first driver to go off there in the Daichi corner. He actually is one of many by the looks of it. It's mainly the hypercars that we have seen go off there, though. Jeremy Baumer leading the way P2. And it's Thibaut Ruffy doing well in the Orochi location here, followed by Jan Schnutgen with a 149.8 flat. So you can see quite a big gap here between the P16 and 17 overall, the P4 and 5 in class right now. There, of course, we see Kilian Lutterbach finishing up his laps, and that should just be that. And sure, he got it down to 128.130, but it's not going to be good enough. With all the hypercar drivers now out there, we see that it is Roberto Lorente being the quickest driver out there in his Audi R8 GT3. He's coming along on the main straight nicely. Need to beat his time again then. You know, he's gone for the 148.402. Let's follow along here with the live delta. He's gonna go really, really wide there. That should be a track cut right there. Certainly not gonna help his time. So he is not the one that needs to worry necessarily. Gap to Jeremy Baumer is still quite big. This is Luca Backing now aboard. Post his first time south there. Now let's see if he can be any competitive here around this tricky Japanese track. Currently not seeing the improvements. There it is. It took a while to load in. It's going to be 143.504. And sure, that is an improvement, but it's going to go a little bit wide immediately afterwards. So it's still going to be P28 overall. Not necessarily the best result here. We've actually seen that one of these drivers is still not even out there on track. It's David Gosman. hasn't come around at all. Now let's have a look aboard with Marco Convertini rather it is. Apologies, it's shortened here. Had a little bit of a moment this lap, and that's cost him quite some time. Therefore, it's unlikely to see that he will improve to this section. Indeed, he's just gonna have one more of those. So sure, try again later, I suppose. Just get ready for the next lap. The issue is that he made that mistake around the front straight, so it's actually gonna cost him time on this straight. But let's go aboard with him to see what he can do then. This lap, obviously not it, as you can see. It's going to be a 145 or 46 even. And now things get a little bit more serious here. ABS kicking in hard to keep the car in place. He seems to have a nice little exit here. Make sure to utilize the maximum of the track and maybe even a little bit more here, as he does get pushed down position-wise a little bit here. Julien Chacchot will actually get ahead of him. Butchering that name, I'm terribly sorry. I'm sure you'll have a good laugh about it after the race. Just to nail the second sector here, hasn't lost much time. Now needs to make sure that he does well on that so tricky third sector. It's arguably actually the most difficult part of the track. Mistakes could be made. Now hitting that brakes. This is a very tight corner. Utilize that curbs quite a little bit here. Now, Assetto Corsa is known to be a game that is quite forgiving on the curbs. There's a little bit of a oversteer moment there, but corrects the car nicely as he makes his way in towards these kind of blind corners where you really need to make sure to hit your lines. It's outside on there to cut across. Then you need to run wide again. There you can just see how much the car is hindering him here. He's having so much oversteer in these corners, and actually has decided to come back into the pits here. A no finish lap this time around then. This is Reno Cheville. P4. Doing well. It's Anthony Montas. The driver will hop aboard with here 141.031. So roughly 3.5 seconds slower than Roberto Lauren here. Is exactly a second behind Ingo Werner. Who's racing him from the Koblenz region. See if he can perform as well as some of the other drivers in his area. Because it is a driver from the Orochi region. Has come over to the Orochi location to go for a provisional pole in the GT3 class here. Montas has run wide. That's going to cost him time. And it's going to go off the track. Bounces across. You can see how harsh that is on this GT3 dampers. And sure, he finds his way back onto the track here. But it's going to be quite challenging to set a better lap time this time around. Now, there is only a couple minutes left here. We started the qualifying around 8 o'clock. It is currently 8:27 local time. So only a couple more Hail Mary attempts here to try and improve here, as we'll stay aboard with Anthony Montas for a while here. First corner seemed kind of fast now. The question is, where has he lost so much time in the previous attempts? That's what I'm mainly wondering about. It's probably the third sector, which has been quite problematic for some of these drivers around there. That together with turn 1, but turn 1 looked really clean on Anthony Montas here. Now it's good to see you guys all in chat. Oh, a little bit of a moment there for Anthony Montas here. Apologies for the break, for screaming over myself right there. But what I was gonna say is that the BMW driver there had a little bit of a moment. I'm very glad that you guys are here joining me in the chat. There's currently a nice little P4 position here for Thibaut Raffieux. From Switzerland to try and see what he can do this time around. Only a slight bit slower than Reno Cheville, was actually nicked a place from him. Both driving from the same Nürburgring eSports Center. in Switzerland. So far, the Audi's doing decently well, I'd say. Audi's out there on the track are P1 and P4 respectively. Now, whether that's a car balance thing or more of a driver's thing, I'm not really sure. But I do know that both drivers here have done really well in this championship so far here. Well, Roberto Laurent is especially going to be very happy with this, because considering that he is currently in P5 in the championship, it's quite a long way to go to improve. And, well, Thibaut Ruffy, well, Ruffio, I should say, his full name, to go with the shortened names that are shown by you guys. But Ruffio is in P2, and would like to get a little bit closer to Jeremy Baumert here, who's actually the driver that's finding himself over in P2 in the overall championship here. This is Aiden Shian Slim. I saw some supporters out there in the chat. He's currently the slowest driver as we go aboard with Julien Chachot. Doing well, P5, the fastest BMW in the GT3 class there. The Hypercars being dominated by the GT3 cars currently in P1, 2 and 3. With Fabian Klein taking provisional pole over there. Julien Chachot is currently posted a 139.584. In an attempt to make something work here. Trying to see where he could maximize his pace. All clean by Julien Chachot is going to go wide though, and that is the tricky corner that I was just telling you about, right? It is just, it tightens up so much. Entry going upwards, it's so tricky to get right. Jan Schnutgen currently in P18 as the checkered flag is out, and Roberto Laurent looking good here for a provisional pole here around the Fuji track. Jan Schnutgen trying to see if he could potentially improve. Now, Thibaut Ruffio is already in there, so that's the driver behind him. Or ahead of him, rather, for the time being here. Schnutgen here looking to potentially launch himself up there. I mean, he's currently well ahead of his usual margins. See if he can get in there and improve. The session is about to go to an end. It might just be a potential P3 here for Jan Schnutgen. Let's see if he can do it here. Coming along the straight. His Porsche for the last time. What's it gonna be? Taking a while to update here. Makes me wonder whether he's actually improved or not. Certainly doesn't look like it. No, he hasn't. So Reno Cheville's still out there, finding himself in P3 in the class. Ingo Wenner is gonna come into the pits as he should. Last finishers just coming out there. And we should be ready for a 1-hour race. Didi does finish up his lap there. Let's see who's still out there. I see that Rene Cheville is still driving, and so is Norbert Diewald. So the driver we're currently getting aboard with here is one of the last ones to follow along. P21 for the time being has one more chance to push himself up there. And he's hoping to make it, right? Maybe push up a little bit of a space or two, get yourself into the top 5. That would be a really good result there for Robert Diewald, who's currently finding himself in P4 in the championship and also racing from the Nürburgring region, and that is just not helping. Small mistake being made. That's it then. He's going to come across the finish, but not too hopeful after that it's going to improve. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the live deltas synced up with the stream that you guys are seeing. It's looking like a P21 overall. A little bit disappointing, perhaps, as Roberto Laurent will take provisional pole in this class then. That means that we have come to the results of the qualifying session. Well, that was quite exciting there. Fabian Klein will be taking it upon himself to finish up in the top region, as he's currently on provisional pole in his class. Lorente will be starting from P1 here in the GT3 Championship. And now we have a 75-minute race ahead of myself. I know I said 60 before, same mistake as we made during the driver briefing, funnily enough. But yeah, it's a 75-minute race. There's a 1 hour and 15 minutes of Fuji coming up. We'll be getting to that in just a couple minutes. But for now, we're going to be taking a small break.
The atmosphere, the people here around are so passionate, so it's incredible.
I get goosebumps every time I see this.
The Nürburgring is really a very special place, and it's a very difficult place.
It's very, very good to have all these fans back here in the home of motorsport.
safety car is currently out there on track to get us ready for the rolling start. You got to be careful though. I mean, Sabrico's had a little bit of a moment during the first lap before we get going. You know, luckily he's going to allow for all of the other drivers to follow up. Then we should be all good to go here. So Fabian Klein leading the way in his class. Roberto Lorente in the GT3s. It's about time that we get underway here. It's going to be quite an exciting one ahead of this here. Fabian Klein has been so sharp with this entire race so far. Qualifying was looking good. Now he just needs to make sure that he performs. Now keep in mind that we have actually toned down the electric battery of these classes, so it's just a matter of getting it on the track nicely. You don't need to be worried about your electrical deployments like you should in a real hypercar, but we'll see what this can offer then, as it is currently set to start away here. A little bit of a gap between the hypercar drivers and the GT3 drivers. That's probably a good idea, as we are about to get underway. Sabrico's made his way into the pit, I believe. That means that he'll be overtaken, and we are immediately underway here. As we'll see, there's quite a few drivers that need to get out there. Yeah, there's the jump start for a few of them. It's Maximilian Rorik trying to stay out there and do well. Fabian Klein needs to try and defend on his position here, but we're seeing a couple late dives down the inside. Everyone keeps it clean. Oh, there's contact between a couple drivers. More drive-throughs coming out for the jump start. That is, I believe that is Michael Volles falling back a little bit here, as Kilian Lutterbach will take over P1 for the time being here. Fabian Klein back into P2, but so many jump starts out there that are all going to have to be served a little bit later on. We're using real penalty. It's quite strict. Malcolm Bauer making his way up there now. He's taking that position away from Fabian Klein, but he is going to lock up. Does that allow for Fabian Klein to get back into it? Well, not quite yet here, as the Cadillac driver will take P2 for the time being. Lorente has lost his P1 in the GT3 classes. Jeremy Baumert's trying to defend for his life right now. Michael Bauer once again a little bit of a small lock up there. Fabian Klein getting a drive through. Timothy Sperson driving a little bit slowly. There was contact between him and Andre Hannes, who was the driver that we saw fall off a little bit before this. Now looking to fight back. He's just about able to avoid Timothy here, but he's going to keep right with him. Kilian Lutterbach leading the way here. He seems to have created a little gap for himself, so currently about 2.5 seconds clear, as Jeremy Baumert is still leading. And we see one of the hypercars being turned around there. That means that they're now completely mixed up in the order. And that means that we're going to get traffic issues early on for some of these GT3 drivers here. Maximilian Rorik was the one that got taken out, or has taken himself out. I'm not so sure, but that's the current leader all along, and that's not good, as Jan Schnutgen is trying to come around nicely, but he's made some contact with Robert Dewalt there, and there's still more contact being made here. It's a messy start, as the hypercars are now involved in GT3 lap traffic immediately. This is going to be such a comeback drive necessary. Fabian Klein serving that drive through early, and that means he's going to give up early track position and potentially find himself behind the GT3s. Now, I'm not so sure whether that is the wise decision or not, but we're going to see plenty of drivers come in. Max Grenzner is going to be one of them. Kilian Lutterbach leading the way. Jeremy Baumert currently in P2, as Roberto Lorente has made his way by again. Yeah, these pit stops really not helping along nicely now. Fabian Klein finding himself now in between this traffic, and is going to have to just be real careful that he doesn't crash into any of it. So much contact being made right now. I think it was Tom Claesy and Ingo Werner together. Both drivers in the same region. Kolbans, and oh, that is the Porsche going wide. I think that Jan Schnutgen was made a mistake. Maybe got scared a little bit there by the lockup of Fabian Klein and just forgot to hit the brake himself. Tried to keep it on the track, not able to do so. Fabian Klein just weaving his way through traffic right now. GT3s are not willing to give him any extra space, because they are still fighting for position coming around here. Daniel Gattani's hit the wall, unfortunately, and we're gonna see that Fabian Klein is just trying to push his way back here, and he's gonna be able to overtake Jeremy Baumert here, which means that it's only Roberto Lorente still ahead of him in terms of GT3 traffic. Then he's gonna be clean. He's got such a long way to go. Same obviously goes for the other drivers that got themselves drive-thrus early on. Michael Bauer currently in P2. He's about 0.8 seconds away from the current race leader, Kilian Lutterbach, who's going to be very, very happy with how the start has gone for him. He kept it clean. He didn't pick up a drive-through penalty, and he is now able to help himself out there. Malbasic is also going to be coming in and serve a drive-through. He's currently in P25 already. He's just kept dropping and dropping. And where the BMWs were so strong during the qualifying session, they have really fallen off, and it's the Cadillac drivers together with the Alpine who find themselves over to the top as Aydin Shayan Salim has made a little bit of a mistake. He's locked up coming into turn 1. Now he's able to rejoin the track safely. It's cost him a little bit of time, as we do now see that Anthony Mottas has also served his drive-through penalty. Now, real penalty, the mod that we're using to get an authentic penalty experience in the Assetto Corsa can be quite strict here. For example, with the track limits. And this is now going to be a nice little push up here by Michael Bauer. He's made up some time compared to Kilian Lutterbach here. Majority of those drivers out there are on the medium tires. At least the current top 8 is. Now actually top 10, as we do see that Baumert has dropped down a little bit here, as some of the GT3s are now finally being overtaken by the last hypercars. As he start out there, as Fernando de Piche is going to serve his drive through. The two hypercars have done up nicely. We're going to see a little bit of a lockup, and it means that the Ferrari's got to go the long way around. It's all costing them time. And we do see the first penalty being delivered there by race control. It's going to be Lennart van Kanaal who gets a 5-second penalty. That stuff out there. He's currently finding himself in P6. Daniel Gattani is also going to be getting a 10-second stop and go penalty. That is quite a hefty penalty to give out, but he did have massive contact in the end. That is one of the hypercars going very, very wide. Was that Timothy Sparris then? I believe it might have been. Jeremy Baumer's just trying to get out here. He's made his way ahead of Roberto Lorente, who's still chasing along nicely in his Audi. And this is now where traffic has been an issue way earlier than the other drivers participating were thinking. But it seems like Roberto Lorente wants this position back. He is keen to be pushing for it. And he's confident that he can do it here, which we do see Baumert going pretty wide. That might have been a little bit of a wide push here. And I did see that was actually going to be maybe a little bit of a move here. Oh, look at that. Weaving through the straight. You got to be careful. You can't move twice. As they move into turn number 1. And I can only imagine that this is going to be a scent somewhere around. It's going to be the Audi immediately putting it side by side, but he has to make his way the long way around the outside of turn 1. And there's going to be a little bit of contact between the two. Now it's very marginal. Is there going to be space left on this region? Yes, Jeremy Baumert is going to give him the absolute minimum. And I think both drivers get away with it just about there, but there was contact between the two, and I'm sure that the stewards will have a look if they have some opinions on that one. But to me, it just looked like very hard racing from the beginning. Now, I did notice actually a little bit earlier on that the volume is a little bit low, which I'm trying to fix during the stream. Fortunately, I can only boost it up in one way, which I actually think I'll have to do. I mean, I don't think there's a way for me to do it, so I'm just going to do it like this. If there's anything wrong with the audio, by the way, make sure to let me know. I'm trying to improve it on the spot as we go. I wasn't able to test it before the stream. It should already be a little bit better for you guys, but obviously we've still got a long way to go. So I'm going to be making improvements along the line here. Whenever I have the opportunity to make it happen, I think this should just about be fine. If not, please let me know. Our Baumert's gone quite wide. And that allows for Thibaut Ruffiot to get in there and snatch away that P2 position in his class respectively. So we do now see that these GT3 battles are really coming alive, whereas the hypercars have some distance between them. And we do see that there's contact here being made by both of the Alexanders. It's Alexander Erben, Alexander Alk here. Picking up some damage. Cheville has got a very, very deformed front end now, as he got himself involved into an incident with one of the other drivers, which I wasn't able to pinpoint in time. That means that in GT3, Roberto Lorente, P1, Rufio right behind that, Baumert in P3. And Gutani's picked up a speeding penalty there. So he is going to have to serve his drive 2 yet again. He was speeding in the pit lane. And we even said it during the briefing. You need to make sure that you practice your pit entries, because this track in particular is quite tricky on the pits. Even in general. I know your options are limited, but still. Just not going to help your race by any means here. As Aiden Shem Salim has also picked up a 5-second penalty for speeding. Seems less harsh, so I'm guessing that the difference has been smaller. He was closer off than Gutani, who picked up a drive-through for the contact in the beginning of the race. Has just served his 10-second stop-and-go penalty. He's cleared it immediately, so it's going to be a nice little race here, especially in the GT3 class. Lorento's still pushing for his life. Majority of the hypercars are at least ahead of the GT3s again. We do still see some lap traffic out there. This Dorian Malbasic getting himself involved now. Yeah, you can flash all you want, but you're not entitled to anything. He knows it. It's just merely giving a warning. Be careful. I'm pushing through here. Malbasic is going to be giving a nice little tow here to the Audi. Maybe that will allow him to close up the gap a little bit later on. And this is how traffic can really make or break your race here. Maximilian Ruddick finding himself in P9. He's going to be a little bit disappointed with that. Coming onto the straight, he has set his eyes here on the Ferrari ahead of him. This Lennart von Kanaal has participated before, so for 12 points in the championship. Looking to close the distance. For a second I thought he also locked the brake there, but no, he hasn't. It's a Ferrari going really wide though. They won't get into the way of him. The hypercars moving along nicely here in the traffic. Short laps, you'll be meeting them plenty of times here. We did just see that the GT3s are still fighting hard. There was some contact between, I believe it was Luca Becken getting himself involved with Tom Plessy again. They had some contact earlier on in the race, and there we see Gattani serving his drive-through. He should be cleared of all penalties now, but it's costing him a lot of time. They've gone through the pits already 3 times so far this race. As Jeremy Baumert's made a little bit of contact here with Nandinho Bapish. So it's going to be chaotic out there still, despite all these drivers coming out there. We also have some more challengers out there. Hope you guys are all doing well. Maximilian Röhrig only just about keeps it on the track on the straight. That was scary. But he has somehow gained that position there. I think that was also just a little bit of, okay, you know what, you can have it, you're quicker than me. We'll see if I can keep up with you. Lutterbach making contact with Thibaut Ruffiot. That is not going to be good news there. These drivers are not supposed to be getting themselves involved here. They are, and that's the tricky part about it here. Do see some more lockups around there. Fabian Klein looking to push his way back here. Putting himself around this traffic. He's trying to catch that Toyota of Alexander Hawk right now. The gap between them is currently a little bit over 2 seconds, so it's going to be a while to actually get there. Though that Toyota is currently getting himself involved with heavy traffic, and it means that Fabian Klein will be closing down that distance before he goes off. And there's the mistake being made by Alexander Hawk. There was some contact, I believe. I'm not so sure. I wasn't able to see it immediately in my live timing, but oh man, that is tough out there. He's going to lose that position. Luckily keeps the car in one piece. There we see, oh, that was one of the Cadillacs, wasn't it? Messing around with the lap traffic here. Oh my, that is just so scary. And here you have an idea of what it looks like here behind the scenes. Not every seat is filled, almost every seat is filled. Here they are, all driving on the same motion rigs. They're 55-inch TVs, I believe those are. And the top location that you're seeing here on the right of your screen, that is at the Nürburgring. So if you're ever finding yourself at the Nürburgring, you're waiting between your sessions to start, or you've just come around from karting, make sure to check out this place. And then in the bottom we have the Koblenz location. All these drivers driving in the same server then. Fabian Klein currently is looking to push along. He's trying to get close to Michael Volos, who's made a couple mistakes when it comes to braking. He's locked up the brakes a few times now. Convertini is going to get another drive-through, another 5-second penalty here. This time another drive-through, so that's going to be happy with that, but it's still going to cost him so much time. This is Baumert then. Trying to see what he can do. Gaps have diminished a little bit here. Once again, a lockup there on the Cadillac, and I wonder just how much is left of those tires now, because it seems to happen quite often. Obviously, these cars are quite tricky to drive, don't get me wrong. It's still pretty scary. As Thibaut Raffieux is trying to catch up, Laurentiis really managed to get a gap for himself. He's about 5 seconds clear right now. Jeremy Bauert's worried about his rear view mirrors, because it looks like the not only the Audis come close, but also some of these hypercars, and they might just be helping or limiting these players. Look at this. The fact that the Toyota keeps the door open allows for a dive down the inside, and that is just how the other classes can influence each other. Sure, eventually I think he's managed to hold on. Yes, indeed, it is going to be Jeremy Baumert still in there, but Raffieux is right over him, and maybe next time around that will be different. Fabian Klein looking to take a little bit of a conservative line, get the exit speed right, but he's got to be careful. That BMW is going to get into the way of things. Just trying to stick to the racing line here. Fabian Klein's going to be making his way around Aydin Cheyan once again. He's currently the driver in last position, unfortunately. And the skill difference here between the drivers is obviously quite big. Some of these drivers are regulars here. Some of these drivers have maybe only done a couple sessions here before. Maybe some of them are even new. So you are seeing that some of these drivers are putting in these consistent lap times, like, for example, the 128.9 that we've seen from current race leader Kilian Lutterbach. Then you have some of these other drivers. For example, a driver that I could name here has been a little bit slower is Dorian Malbasic, was doing 133.4 at the moment. Now that is not really slow. I mean, that's still a big gap compared to the GT3s, but it's still 4 seconds slower than the current race leader. As Jeremy Baumert is trying to hold on for dear life here versus the Audi. There's a BMW driving slowly. Luckily isn't on the racing line. A little bit of a spinner there as Jeremy Baumert is going to see that the Audi is trying to dive around the outside. And oh, he gets collected there by the hypercar. Andre Hennes got himself involved in that. I don't know if that was intentional or not. Most certainly he didn't feel like it though. Thibaut Raffieux is now kind of forced to give away that position, give up the fight compared to the Lexus. There is, however, still more traffic involved here with the hypercars. That means that more opportunities will arise, because now it's really not been in the favor of the Audi driver. But maybe next time around that will change, and maybe then we'll see that they're going to get into the way of Jeremy Baumert here, and then things will be looking differently. Johannes trying to get himself involved then. But unfortunately, he's got himself a drive-through for cutting the track. Now that's actually one of the automatic penalties given out by the application that we use. Thibaut Ruffieux is just trying to hold on to his position here. Alright, race leader Kilian Lutterbach has built up an interval of 4 seconds already to the driver behind. Michael Bauer is finding himself not really in a position to challenge, as Fabian Klein is going for a little bit of a comeback drive here. I mean, he's currently back in P4. What a masterclass it would be. But Maximilian struggling a little bit more, the current championship leader. He's going to be happy with that. Oh, Ruffieux, contact with traffic, just about keeps it on the track. That is one of the McLarens. That is actually not a driver who's fighting for position. Ruffieux made it out alive in that battle, but that was way too close for comfort here. That was scary. It really was. And then that is the Falcon Porsche being turned around then. Oh my, that is tough. And Aydin Sjansli getting spun out. He's got a big gap to fill here. And Johannes is going to serve his drive-through penalty, which he still had for a while. So 32 drivers in total on this grid. Here we have a couple other drivers in this session to help out whenever necessary. For example, the safety car. Also the live camera operator. But there's 32 active drivers out there. Currently 31 of those are on the track, with Tom Klesse being the sole exception. He's come in to pit. Now, there is no mandatory pit stop during these races. However, there is a limit as to how much fuel you can take. So one full set of tires might take you through the end of the race, but one full tank of gas might actually not. And that means that most of your drivers will be going for a pit, if not all of them, expecting all of them to come in. And to make it even heavier and to kind of get ourselves into that idea, we're also putting up a 120% fuel rate here. As Victor Mestre Silva made his way up nicely. He's made his way past the Michael Bauer Cadillac, finding himself in P2 now, which is great because he can now open up an attack on Kilian Lutterbach, who has seen that gap diminish a little bit here. It's been a little bit slower the past lap and has cost him some time. But lap traffic is in the way, and it is lap traffic that is actually in the same class, making just so much more tricky right now. To the last couple blind corners here. Mr. Silva's got along with that nicely. Marco Bauer has made his way through. I believe that is Fernandino got into the way. I'm not entirely sure, but I believe it was Fernandino Dapic who found himself involved and is now already being lapped there. So that just shows how incredibly difficult this race has now become, with drivers of so many different skill levels. And well, also just the two different classes out there on track. This is Victor Mestre Silva, who's done really well so far. Keep along is gonna struggle to make the first turn. Not able to hit that apex, but Michael Bauer not really in a range to contend for the position for the time being. Kilian Lutterbach is just looking to escape a little bit here. Michael Bauer is actually going to 10-second penalty from the race direction. And that is tough out there because you're so close. But this means you're going to be losing 2 positions serving that penalty along. Although we are going to see some more penalties coming out there. For example, Luca Beckings just picked one up. Well, he is actually a driver in P23 currently. And He's currently a midfield driver in his class, so he's going to see a couple positions go away there when he serves that penalty. It's actually going to also allow, for example, drivers like, I believe that is, yes, that is Gianluca, just making sure it was actually him. It's Gianluca Tattoli was actually going to be able to get up way closer now, especially if you're on a couple less liters of fuel by the end of it, and you might just be completely tied up again, and then you're going to have to fight for position, even though you were so clear in the beginning. But the gap seems stable, at least at the top of the hypercars here. Kylian Lutterbach still well ahead, 2 seconds. Victor Mestre is ahead of Michael Barr right now, but with Michael Barr having that penalty, he should be more worried about Fabian Klein, who's trying to make a comeback drive here and would put himself back onto a podium if he keeps this up. Michael Vullis would also be overtaking him, serving that penalty, because the gap is currently 9.2 seconds and the penalty is 10 seconds. Michael Bauer seems quick through 100R. It seems to me in general that he's picked up the pace rather nicely here. 129.98 was the lap time to look at then. And it's actually a little bit slower compared to the other times that we're seeing. His best lap is a little bit quicker actually. It's 128.809, which is actually quicker than the driver ahead of him, Victor Mestre Silva. So Michael Bauer, he has the raw pace to try and contend, but a penalty might just make it really, really difficult to do so. Now, currently in the GT3 class, Laurent is still leading the way. Michael Bauer makes a mistake. And now Victor Mestre is long gone. More slipstream, no more copying lines. To make it even worse, you're now finding yourself also fighting around traffic. But luckily, that wasn't the hardest one to overtake. You're coming along nicely here. Everyone's still in the race, and that makes me very happy. Everyone's still looking to go for it as much as they can. Drivers obviously more competitive than others, but everyone's kind of got somebody to race against. Jan Salim is going to serve another drive-through penalty, and that's going to put him behind even more. He's already 82 seconds behind now. Yeah, second to last driver. And the main thing now is that he served 4 penalties already, which I believe 3 were a drive-through and 1 actually was a stop-and-go. As Gianluca Tattoli is also going to be finding himself automatic drive-through here. Some contact for Marco Convertini and Michael Bauer. That's not what you want to be seeing. He's driving very different classes right now. And trying to come around, then that was the contact being made. Then obviously my lifetime is a little bit ahead. Scary stuff here. Michael Bauer back to P4 as Fabian Klein's gone through. Michael Bauer still got to serve that penalty. Now he has actually increased the gap onto Michael Vullis. That will help him in an attempt to stay ahead here. I'm just checking to see if I've spotted anything weirder, but the positions have been shaken up a little bit here. Tattoli has served his drive-through straightaway. I must admit, it's nice to see that they're all serving that penalty. It makes it so much more clear to watch for the viewers, as Maximilian Röhrig finds himself right behind the Toyota. That is Alexander Haug. So making sure he gets ahead of this BMW here before the end of the straight. Röhrig now feels the need to do that, and I think if he's late on the brakes, he should be able to do that, no problem. He gets the car slowed in time. Therefore, easy does it. Luca Becking finds himself now on another penalty. And just a little under 45 minutes to go in this race here, as Rino Cheville has unfortunately had an incident of his own. Finds himself touching the barrier. Fabian Klein be free now with Michael Barr not able to keep up with the raw pace that Fabian Klein has, and Victor Messer Silva's gone to defend the inside line here, coming into turn 1. On a tight corner, but Wu is more daring onto the brakes. Klein's gonna lock up heavily. He can still chase the exit, still surprisingly good here. As now trying to come around here, Victor Messer Silva. Yes, he's done it. Victor Messer not really able to defend as hard as he might have wanted to. Fabian Klein's gonna take that position and make his way back from the middle of the pack all the way up to P2 in class and also P2 overall. The Hypercars is gonna nicely pass the class leader of the GT3s, and that is Roberto Lorente. And now you could just see how that heavy traffic is gonna affect him. A little bit of a lock up there. More GT3 drivers going wide, but you gotta find your way around safely. Yeah, Fabian Klein being blocked by that Porsche. Wants the Porsche to move over, it eventually does. Victor Messer Silva should actually not be able to clean that though. The Porsche got into the way of both of the drivers, so not really an advantage found there. As Kilian Lutterbach is now so close, look at it, as we pass Aydin Shian around. This is now a clean battle. Only a second between Kilian Lutterbach, the current race leader, and Fabian Klein. Who's actually come in towards the pits here, so Fabian Klein is going to be able to take over P1 here. As Kilian Lutterbach goes to serve his first pit stop here. Look back, he picks up a little bit of a penalty there for speeding, unfortunately. Fabian Klein's going to have to now try and extend that gap, but obviously will be running out of fuel eventually here. And yeah, this is a valuable time being lost now by Kilian Lutterbach, but all of the drivers will have to do the exact same thing. Just gotta make sure you time it well with the traffic. That means that Victor Messer Silva is back in P2. It's temporarily here. Lutterbach has come in. Only pit stop that Fabian Klein has served was a penalty. Mr. Silva clearing out that GT3 traffic rather nicely here. Roberto Lorente looking to do his thing. Currently leading the group still. And it is really impressive to see his consistency. I mean, the gap out there obviously to Andre Hennes in the hypercar class is really, really big. But you shouldn't really look at that. It's obviously not very comparable, but just the fact that he's been in this lead for so long and some other drivers moving up and down, he's just been there. Hasn't had any problems in this race so far. He's currently P2 here for, I believe that is indeed Fernandini. I was just making sure that I did actually get it right. I'm looking to see where he is on the current overall standings. I don't actually see him, which is a little bit weird because I did feel like I saw his name before. It's P2 anyways. Fernandino. It is, and he's currently holding on nicely. Lapice finding himself in P16 overall now. But Raffier has just gone for the overtake. Actually, now more hypercars getting himself involved there. So yeah, it is just such a difficult race now to get along, right? And the question is mainly now, how do you deal with these lower drivers coming out there? It's going to make a little bit of a comeback then. Obviously, I forgot I was a hypercar driver. But yeah, he is still out there trying to make a recovery drive. So it is actually going to be still Lorente and Baumert P1 and 2. Apologies for that. And then we have Thibaut Ruffieux really well to catch up with P3 here. Maximilian Rohrig now coming around in P4. He's gonna see more and more drivers getting himself involved. Now Maximilian Rohrig really sending it over the curbs there. The beach is still looking to come around. He's actually just overtaken the GT3s around there. So I'm trying to see if he can make this work. This is Maximilian Rohrig we are aboard with here. Looking to see if a dive is possible here onto Michael Vollas. And indeed, it looks to be. impressive stuff out there, I gotta say. So, Daniele Gattani's gonna have to serve a drive-through for cutting along here. Andre Hennis, I mean, is that worth sending down? I don't think so. And for the opportunity, ooh, the BMW, a little bit unpredictable there. Both drivers escape. No matter what, here's Michael Barnes actually had some contact with lap traffic there. That sense, plenty of things are happening here. Andre Hennis getting himself involved here. Needs to try and see if he can catch up. Another from Canal, but the gap is just so big. It's 50 seconds, which is just not something you make up very easily, as Luca Becking has been handed a drive-through penalty by the live steward. So race direction, getting himself involved pretty early on. So yeah, Messi out there once again. Being Klein in the hypercar, leading the way right now. Obviously, he's yet to come in for an actual pit stop, as Aydin Chancelim is gonna spin around and make some contact with one of the hypercars. At least that was the Hertz Jota Cadillac that he had contact with. Once again, just not great. Alright, and that will have to do that. And that just shows how tricky it is when you have so many drivers out there that are doing different things. As Fabian Klein is now looking to escape even further from Michael Wallace. I mean, 23 seconds, as once again we see there is a little bit of a spin there. Line coming in nicely. Michael Wallace is 24 seconds behind. Laurent is still leading the way in the GT3s. A little bit of a luck up there for Fabian Klein. Looking to keep it on the road as much as he possibly can. Dealing with the GT3 lap traffic like it's nothing here. I mean, this is just a true masterclass of dealing with traffic right now. You could see how smoothly he's able to calculate everything in his head. You could tell that Fabian Klein is a very distinguished and a very high-skilled driver. Not only by the way he drives, but also the way that he navigates around the traffic here, losing just as little time as possible. Makes his way past the BMW, is just there. A little bit scary, and oh, he's almost slid off. Fabian Klein. Nice little recovery there, and just immediately got to get back to it. I mean, there's just no way to really relax on a circuit like this. So Jeremy Baumert makes some contact here with Chan Exi. That's not helping, especially considering that he is quite far down, and they're not really fighting for everything different kind of race that they're driving now. It's Fabian Klein still doing so incredibly well. I mean, if we talk about dominance here, right? Roberto Laurent is really just on a different level right now. Just so far ahead of everyone else, and it really shows. Jeremy Baumert, though, doing really well. He's behind Thibaut Raffieux for the time being, though. So the two Audis will lead the way over in the GT3 class. As we do see that Victor Mastrosilva's picked up some damage along the way. Yeah, there's the contact coming along, and that hurts, you know, not only driving time-wise, but also just that damage is gonna keep adding on and on to it. Now, once again, just showing the live cameras here. A little bit of frustration there towards the left. As you can see here in the Nürburgring arena. Things are a lot more calm in Koblenz. And obviously, we are also seeing them from the other side. It's quite cool to give you an idea of what this esports rig looks like. It's obviously the best of the best materials that we do have available for these drivers. Also, it's not only the only thing that they do here. Obviously, we have the races like these. But on top of that, we also have, for example, something that I'm really excited for. It's some watch parties along here. So you can come in here and watch Formula 1 with a couple drivers, have a couple drinks, just have a good time overall. Definitely worth a visit here, and if you haven't before, Nürburgring eSports.com with a dash between Nürburgring and eSports. And obviously, as you can't use the German U with the dots in it, is UE. So Nürburgring-esports.com. You can check out all of the venues as well as the races coming up. Like, for example, the next round at Interlagos, or our classic DTM race, which is actually going to be live in about 2 weeks here. And that one is particularly interesting, as they're driving iconic 90s touring cars like, for example, the M3 E30, the Alfa Romeo 155 on the Nürburgring Nordschleife. It's a 3-hour team race. Be very interesting to watch. So yeah, make sure to check that out if you haven't already. Multiple locations available for you, not only at the Nürburgring, but also in other major German cities like Cologne and Koblenz, as well as in Switzerland. Plenty of locations. You've got Luzern, you've got Zurich, Rotterdam, and ooh, that is Luca Backing going really, really wide here. Lugano also being an option, by the way, in terms of our sim racing bars. That's what we call them. It's not only a good place to get yourself involved into some racing action, also just to hang out with other people, meet people that are like-minded. Look at Becking's gonna go for a little bit of a slide. He's actually able to just about keep the car from spinning. Pretty scary contact though, I must say. Not really contact actually. I think he got off that unscathed, but still a little bit of a scare. Code Brown if I've ever seen one. Thibaut Raffieux doing well, but still 2.2 seconds behind Roberto Lorente. But keep in mind that one bad pit stop could ruin everything here. Drivers yet to come in. And we are about to cross that 30-minute mark, which means that we are more than halfway there now. And to give you an idea of how things are looking right now, the drivers that are ahead in the Hypercar class have done 28 laps so far, and the current race leader in GT3 has done 25. It all depends on the drivers. For example, we've also got 2 drivers out there that are currently on 20 laps only. So yeah, once again, just putting an emphasis on that skill level between all the drivers. So it's going to be quite a fun one. Next up, when it comes to stream, we're heading to Interlagos here in Brazil. Once again, a track on the World Endurance Championship calendar, which utilizes the same classes here, so the LMH and LMDH Hypercars, together with the GT3 class. Or, well, if you're playing iRacing mainly, you're watching the American version IMSA, you would know the Hypercars as the GTP class. Thibaut Raffieux, Tom Clancy doing well, but they're making contact here. Just a second, so... Well, for spoiling, by the way, that sometimes happens because my live timing is a couple seconds ahead here. Let's hope it was minor though. We'll see in just a second though. Laurent is looking to expand the gap. Oh, there it is. Yeah, there's nothing that Raffieux can do about that. Jeremy Baumert only just about able to avoid it by going very wide. Now, you actually don't get a penalty if you go wide and then give up the time immediately. You only lose time, or you only get flagged for track cut if you actually gain time doing so. As you've been penalized enough by itself here. As Timothy Sparrison made his way back in. Fabian Klein still leading. Kenny Lutterbach still behind. Victor Master Silva has just served a drive-through. You can see how much that puts him back now. He's in P8 overall. Keep in mind that he was fighting for P2 not too long ago. Hypercars all up close. It is Hauk and Sparrows here fighting for position. The other car that you're seeing is a Cadillac, I believe that is. Oh, it's actually one of the Porsches being involved here. It's Max Gensner, I believe. Do see a bit of a luck up there. Into turn 1, it's something that has been happening quite a few times for the hypercars. Keep in mind that ABS, or lack of ABS rather, is rather tricky in races like this. You have traction control, but ABS is not to your disposal, unfortunately. Sparrison's going to try and see if he can maybe send a dive down the inside now that traffic's getting involved, but Alexander Haug just stays on this racing line and there's nothing he can do. He's going to have to try just a little bit later again. It's currently, it is the Nürburgring location on top here in the hypercar class, with Fabian Klein still leading the way. But it's actually the Rothschild location. Roberto Lorente and Thibaut Ruffy leading the way, both in the Audis in the GT3 class here. I must say it's really nice to see this variety of cars on track here. There is a total of 5 manufacturers, actually 6 manufacturers involved in the hypercar class here. But when it comes to the GT3 class, there's obviously a little bit more, right? We've got the Ferraris, the Porsches, the Chevy, and the Lexus out there. And that Lexus is actually being really competitive right now. Alexander Haug has gone a little bit wide, and Timothy Sparrison is actually going to have to make contact with him. Well, didn't have to, but unfortunately he did. Does go ahead though, although Alexander Haug's not going to be happy with that one. And he wants to fight this Toyota back on towards this podium position that he had. Timothy's already gone in twice. Alexander Haug really hasn't so far. Lap traffic is still very much a thing here. Sparrison descended down the inside of the 51. Of course, a Ferrari does so nicely. And now it's up to him to try and see if he could chase down Maximilian Rurik, but the gap is still 14.5 seconds. More hypercars. Oh no. It's never a good sign. I believe it's Andre Hennes who's fortunately had a little bit of a spin there. Stuff like that obviously just happens from time to time. This is Ingo Werner we're aboard with. Trying to see if he can get closer to the other BMW of Patrick Fuchs here. Ingo Werner's gonna have to go off. He unfortunately made a little bit of a mistake there. Yeah, obviously had to give up that time that he gained by cutting across then. That's never a good sign. And unfortunately, we do see a driver that's been lapped a couple times. Once again, getting himself involved in an incident where he hit the wall. This Aydin Shian Salim, unfortunately, will pick up some extra damage onto that Porsche 992 GT3 Hypercar here. Getting in the mix, keeping things clean. Yeah, a little bit of a lockup once again. It is just so tricky out there. Try and do your thing. So with these hypercars making it around, that will give you a nice comparison as to what these speeds are doing here around 100R, right? You could just see just how much of an advantage you have when it comes to that arrow here. A little bit over 20 minutes to go here. So we still haven't seen every single driver into the pits here. Rurik's still yet to come in. So is Alexander Haag, but they're going to be running on fumes a little bit later on. I just don't think there's enough in it. With 120% fuel, should be borderline impossible to make it. Knows, right? Anything can still happen. Werner in P23 is finally caught up to Patrick Fuchs again. Should be family there of Michael Fuchs. I think they're driving together. There's still a gap between those two, but Werner wants to see if he can get in between them. Might have the opportunity a little bit later on. Currently, the battles have kind of really sunken down there. There's very little drivers that are still fighting on track. I mean, this is really the only exception right now. Even then, you can't really call it a battle as of yet. I mean, they're not really getting into the range of overtaking now, although the gap is being closed a little bit here. Here's the current race leader then, being Klein. 45-second gap here to Maximilian Rurik. Doing a very quick lap time of 127.415. And that is just incredibly impressive. Now, the only downside here for Fabian Klein is that the driver in P2 is currently the driver leading the championship. So he would like for Maximilian Rurik to lose a couple positions here, maybe get involved into a very, very big incident or something along those lines. Because the more points he loses, the more he is gaining on him in a little bit of a fight for the overall championship. As after this race, obviously halfway through the season already, give you a little bit of perspective on how that is going. Classy currently driving out there. Tom Clacy, I guess it would be pronounced. The Corvette, the only Corvette out there on the grid right now. A little bit of a shame because I love seeing these American muscle cars. And to me, it's even more of a shame that we don't have a Mustang GT3 on the grid. Probably one of my favorite cars to watch in GT3 or any GT3 series, really. I was going to say GT3, but obviously referring to the GT World Challenge that we had at the Nürburgring GP track just a couple weeks ago. But no, I was mainly referring to, for example, the DTM also. I love seeing those American muscle cars doing their thing here. Fortunately, though, this one not very competitive for the time being. A P30 overall. Gaps being quite large, but still fun to see these come out there. And I must say, I do really like the livery that he's put on here. Number 111 car, doing really well. In terms of consistency now, it seems like his lap times are actually doing pretty decent, but it's just not really in a place where it is competitive at the moment. And that's fine, you know, he's here to learn. And Fuji is a really, really tricky track overall, so that's definitely not helping here. Now, as far as I can tell, he actually hasn't raced with us before, so it could just also be that he's pretty new to the sim racing scene, and in that sense, you know, he's doing really well. So keep that up, and we'll see where he ends in the end. Here is once again Fabian Klein here. It's in P1. And the gap is just so enormous right now. Fuchs here. To Werner behind. Gap has kind of remained the same here. So actually these drivers still on the same kind of lap time. Sure, a little bit of a slipstream here, but it's going to be very marginal. Distance not quite there yet. Patrick Fuchs here, looking to see if he could do anything to escape Ingo Werner, or maybe even catch up to his, I assume, brother. Doesn't have to be per se. I mean, could also be father and son, for example. Sim racing is for all ages. I think that's what makes it incredibly fun. It is just so accessible. Could be starting in sim racing for, I mean, maybe even 150 euros if you get a used G29, for example. But when it comes to stuff like karting, she racks up rather fast here. So I think this is very fun to see. It's really realistic nowadays too. We have motion setups here, full TVs. The immersive factor is really, really great at those kind of racing bars that we have set up around the country, or well, countries rather. You're very much an international business here. Now, Patrick so far seems to be holding on just nicely. There was a little bit of contact for Roberto Lorente with Jan Schnutgen. It was very marginal though. It was only 10 kilometers an hour that they touched with. Still, if you don't have to, you'd rather not have it, of course. There is another drive-through being put out there. It's Alexander Erben. It feels like the racing standards have actually gone up a little bit here now that we're past that chaotic point. So Chanexi is going to get a little bit of a time penalty. Sure, plenty is being looked at. Don't worry about it. As Fabian Klein will make his way by the leader in the free class nicely. Roberto Lorente just doing such a good job right now. Doing exactly what is expected of him. Michael Fuchs is coming into the pit now. Instead, Patrick Fuchs and Ingo Werner are actually gonna both go ahead. Jan Schnutgen's now lost the position to Marco Converti in the background, and Fabian Klein still very much leading the race here. The winner of this race is gonna pick up 25 points here, with 20 points for P2 and 17 points for P3 on the podium. We have 14 points for P4, 5 points for 12 points for P5, and then 10 points for P6, and from there it goes from 10 to 1 in steps of 1 point at a time here. So that means that the latest position to score points is P15 with just 1 point. Well, that point could just really be making the difference. Now, obviously that goes per class to make it more fair, otherwise it wouldn't work out. And that just shows that Roberto Lorente is going to be doing such a good job right now. Now, he's only on 32 points, putting him in a shared 5th position. And that does seem kind of rough there. But the reason that is actually quite simple. He has missed one of the races, which immediately just kind of puts him behind there, unfortunately. Even though the drivers are majority the same throughout the season, if you're missing just only a couple rounds, you're really going to be behind. You're never going to be able to catch up to drivers who are doing similar results as you, are attending every single race. Because even if you're having an off race, you could still be on for good points here. Okay, Lorente, actually he did show up in the first round. He just didn't get any points. That is why he's behind by such a big margin then. And if the DNF, he might have dealt with some other issues. He did show up though. Gideon Lutterbach is trying to see if he can get close to Michael Bauer. The gap is currently a little bit over a second. And it seems like all the drivers here are just putting in everything they have, as the lap times are still incredibly comparable to the lap times that we were doing in the beginning here. So all is good for now. Fabian Klein in P2 for now. Maximilian Roerich still ahead, but he hasn't come in at all. That's what's really giving him the edge right now. as we are only 13 minutes away from crowning 2 winners here at the 4th round of the Nürburgring eSports Championship. This is now that gap. Fabian Klein's going to take that lead back, but he's going to go really, really wide. Röhrig not really putting up much of a fight, it felt like. Maybe he realized there was no way of catching up. Maybe he realized that there was no way that he was going to, you know, keep it in there. Because Fabian Klein, he has been so sharp right now. He's just been on it every single time. And, well, there we do see now. Maximilian Röhrig is going to serve a pit stop. Now that, of course, explains why he kind of gave up that position, realized there was no point in fighting it, and he kind of saw it coming for a long while ago. Unfortunately, I do not have access to the fuel tanks of the drivers. It kind of gives you some perspective here. The wind has actually turned around the past couple minutes here as Michael Bowers had a little bit of a scary moment in the beginning of the lap, a little bit of oversteer. Is now following along nicely and will actually be able to take P2 back now as Maximilian Röhrig and Kilian Lutterbeck were both into the pit, but Lutterbeck's already come out, and on those cold tires, or at least I assume are cold tires, he has actually had a little bit of a spin. So we do now see another 10 seconds being added here to the race time there of Aiden Shayan Salim. So that's quite tough. I must admit that was probably not the result that he was waiting for. Jeremy Balmadier still holding on nicely, currently behind Thibaut Rafiodo, putting him in P3 in his class here with Berto Lorente. A nice job in P13 overall, and therefore also leading the championship, leading this race. Sorry, not leading the championship yet, but leading this race with a measly 11 minutes to go. He's looking to put up some good points. The gap obviously has also expanded. It's now to 6.5 seconds as Norbert Diebelt's gonna be able to follow along nicely. I thought for a second that was an overtake, but it was actually a lap driver which made a mistake. As Jan Schnutgen's gonna have some kind of contact now with Aidin Shayan Salim, unfortunately. So Michael Convertini here, trying to see if he can now drive down and close that gap, which is currently 2.4 seconds. It is definitely possible still, but he's got to nail it, and that is Aidin Shayan Salim standing the other way around to return to racing here. Had a tough race, but he has recovered. They'll be going into it again just a little bit later. Make that recovery happening. Now keep in mind that every single lap that he's driving here is a valuable experience for drivers like these. Or maybe a little bit less experienced than some of these other drivers out there. Obviously, drivers like Fabian Klein practicing every single day to perform well on a stage like this. So Shayan Salim has actually picked up just some more damage as he's unfortunately hit the wall. 60 kilometers an hour just afterwards we went into it. So interesting to see how things are following along here. Timothy Sparrison trying to see if he could get closer, but he needs to get past these faster GT3 drivers like Rafio, for example, and Lorente. Oh, that is a big lockup, but he still makes the corner. I think there was a driver in the background going a little bit wide though. Aidin Shayan Salim is going to get another drive-through. See, that's not helping him here. Gary be overtaken here by Maximilian Röhrig. The free traffic not really playing an issue into this now. But the thing is, Kilian Lutterbeck is running into some GT3s and also some of these slower hypercars. That one GT3 that I was kind of worried about actually just straight up went off the road in the Daichi corner, turn number 1. Which is why he actually wasn't holding up any of the hypercar drivers, which would have been to the advantage of the driver chasing, as that gap would then become just a little bit smaller. Fabian Klein, still the absolute fastest drivers out there. His last lap was actually a race record. Just to put that into perspective, he's still putting up faster and faster lap times. At 127.318 it is for him, as Roberto Lorente is going to see some of these Ferraris come around. He isn't worried about that though. He is worried about keeping his place in P1. Now currently the gap is 8.2 seconds, and that should be more than enough if nothing crazy happens, because that is just such a large gap you need to try and play along with. And we'll see if they can do it. We'll see if eventually Jeremy Baubert and Thibaut Ruffieux are able to catch up. Currently aboard with the driver P3 in class, Jeremy Baubert in the Lexus RCF GT3. It's actually my favorite GT3 car. I was at the World Endurance Championship at Spa. When I saw this thing for the first time IRL, I was just in love. I had seen it before, not in WEC, but in the GT World Challenge at Hockenheim. I think it's just such a cool car here. Now keep in mind that we are running these races as close to the World Endurance Championship as we are, but we do not use the hybrid deployment system that they have in the World Endurance Championship in the Hypercars. GT3s, of course, are a little bit more straightforward here. They are just a spec GT3, although the Le Mans spec is obviously very different to the Peak GT spec that are being used in, for example, the DTM. As Julien Sergio is going to take a little bit of a drive-through this late in the race. That is not good news here. Currently P19. Gap behind is 25 seconds. It's Ingo Werner who will happily be taking that. It's good news for him. Thibaut Ruffieux is just looking to see if he can catch up here. Coming straight out of the Panasonic corner. We did see some hypercars together with Marco Convertini. He was going to try and get into that slipstream whenever he has the opportunity to. Convertini doing well. Alexander Erben looking to come around whenever he has the opportunity. Marco Convertini wants this. And Schnutgen is the driver right up. It's only half a second though when Convertini recovers nicely here, just really on the edge of that McLaren. You could tell by how twitchy that car is driving around that corner here. And 100R looks a little bit more stable afterwards, but still. Just look now how chaotic it still is in time into the hairpin. That lap GT3 traffic will get into the way every single time, as we are now at the point where only 5 more minutes are being raced. Rory gets a little bit of a nudge there from one of the GT3s. He's trying to stay along with the driver that you are now seeing ahead of him, Kilian Luttebach in P3. They are going to be fighting until the end of the race to figure out who's going to take that 3rd place and the final place onto the podium. Rick goes a little bit wide. That's going to cost him valuable time here. Luttebach was on the straight way earlier than he was. Take so much more speed in onto that straight now. And that actually puts him outside of the slipstream range by quite a big margin. And that also means you are now just looking to see if you can recover. But it's not going to be easy by any means. Here we also see that Kilian Luttebach has made a little bit of a mistake coming into that very, very long corner. And now maybe a dive down the inside can happen. It doesn't look like it, unfortunately. But now Kilian Luttebach is on high alert. He needs to defend. Wallace has cleared his drive through. There we do see Rurik does get ahead. Moves up. As Kilian Luttebach will unfortunately be giving up that position here with just mere minutes left into this race now. Should only be time for about 3 more laps at this point. And as they come into the final corner of the track. Rick would like to see what he can do. Rufio then, he has just gone side by side for P2 here. Jeremy Baumert able to fetch off the first attack of Thibaut Rufio. But he'll come again. He is quick, he is confident that he can do it. More lap traffic getting into the way, and those are GT3 cars that are going to be playing a factor into this. Oh, there's contact between the two. Rufio hits the rear of the Lexus, and I thought that Lexus would get spun around, but it looks like it just about hasn't. But that will surely be looked at by the racing steward, because that is such an impactful crash towards the end of the race. Obviously, Rufio, he braked a little bit too late. He hit both of the drivers there, but to see such a plot twist towards the end of the race is just absolutely devastating. Still though, P15 overall, P3 in class is not a bad result. Obviously, Lorente is just way quicker right now. He is just on it right now, 12 seconds ahead of any of his classmates. He has just really been one class apart, as Rufio is actually going to be getting a penalty for that. I think that is a wise decision. I think that decision is very, very logical. 5-second penalty. You could argue that that's actually quite a little bit shallow. That's actually quite forgiving, considering how impactful that would have been. I think it is mainly because the result of this wasn't as bad, but obviously neither of the drivers made it into the wall. Sure contact, sure damage, but you know, I think that was actually quite a significant incident. And it will obviously be quite tough now for Rufio to catch up. He's 6.5 seconds behind. He's also got a 5-second time penalty. Now that doesn't really get himself involved to the point where that would mean that he would actually be losing time to Norbert Diewald in a way that he's a threat. But you also just kind of need to, at that point, be able to settle for P3, which is kind of really sad because you were having such a fun battle. And keep in mind, sure, we are racing a competition, right? That is what this is. But in the end, all of these drivers are also here to have fun. And, you know, all these drivers, they want to have a good race too. There's no point in winning dominantly. You want to fight for it. You want to have that feeling that you work for it really, really hard. Julian Chachot, P19 for now. Doing well in this class, but he's got a long way to go. And the fact is also that he's 70 seconds behind Covertini, so he's not going to be able to catch up, unfortunately. There's just no time left for that. We are now into the final seconds of this race. It is 3 seconds until the end. Fabian Klein leads, and the race time is officially over. That means that Fabian Klein is about to win here at the Fuji GP, the 75 minutes of Fuji. He is looking to do it, and he has been so dominant this entire race round. There's only one thing that I can say, and that is massive respect to Fabian Klein. Had a tough start, got involved into an incident, had to take a penalty, had to actually fight his way back, and the leader now being on the final lap means that it is now going to be a very dominant victory for Fabian Klein. He will be taking P1 here over in the hypercar position, and I think it is fair to say that he absolutely deserved it. Now here is Roberto Lorente, still 6 seconds clear, coming through the final couple laps. It will be Michael Barr taking P2. He's actually just about overtaken the GT3 leader into Net's corner. He's then made the mistake, so he's going to have to give that position again, funny as that is. Roberto Lorente, he will be taking a victory in his class, and you could argue that that is about as good as it gets for him. More penalties being handed out here, but Roberto Lorente, he takes this. He qualified onto P1. He's only lost it maybe twice, maybe 3 times for a very short time, but he takes that victory, and it is so deserved. Bar P2 in Hypercar, Rurich right behind that. Jeremy Baumert will be taking P2 in the GT3 class, followed by Thibaut Rufio, who will be a little bit disappointed in himself after causing that collision, because he very much was on for a nice little result there in his class. And obviously that is what happens. That is just racing from time to time. But to finish off the championship, Lutterbach coming in P4, Sperris in P5, Volos in P6, Haag in P7, Mestre Grenzer coming right behind. And yeah, you know, I think overall just an incredible race, right? I think we can all be very happy with how that went. GT3 class, we see Dewald getting some nice punch, Schnutgen, Converti, and Shosho are all going to be very happy with how that went. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this broadcast. I hope you guys have enjoyed it as much as I have, because what a race this has been. Let me quickly swap over to this scene, because I want to just talk about this championship a little bit more. What a result it has been. We will maybe see some changes with stewarding afterwards, in case necessary, but this championship, right, the Nürburgring eSports Championship, is going to continue, and it will be so much fun to watch. So just to give you an idea here, as I just quickly see that my camera's moved a little bit during the stream. Yeah, that's fine. But the esports bar, or well, the esports series, rather, the NEC that we are hosting here, they are not done with this as of yet. They have some more races coming up. Next up will be the DTM Classic 3 Hours of the Nordschleife race in the 90s touring cars, right? The DTM cars, the more iconic cars, the 190 Evo 2, the Alfa Romeo 155, the M3 E30, you name it. That is going to be an incredible fun one. That one isn't being streamed in English, unfortunately, though. Next up for the Nürburgring eSports Championship will be round number 5 here at Interlagos coming up next. A circuit that has always performed, it's always meant for good racing. And that race will be on the 25th of September. As for now, I'm going to say thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to the team at Nürburgring eSports for allowing me to be on. I have enjoyed this very much. And I hope to see you guys again in the next race coming up 25th of September. The same time as always. So I hope to see you guys there. As for now, I'm going to say thank you guys so much for watching. And have a pleasant rest of your day.
The atmosphere, the people here around are so passionate, so it's incredible.
I get goosebumps every time I see this.
The Nürburgring is really a very special place, and it's a very difficult place.
It's very good to have all these fans back here in the home of motorsport.